Close your eyes for just a second. Seriously, picture it. You're standing on the edge of the absolute greatest stage in world sports. The stadium lights are blindingly bright, the grass is perfectly, immaculately cut, and tens of thousands of fans are holding their collective breath in the stands, just waiting. So what is the sound of that exact, tense moment? For billions of people across the globe, it isn't the deafening roar of the crowd or the sharp blast of a referee's whistle. No. It is a soaring, majestic choir singing just three simple words at the absolute top of their lungs: the main event. Today, we are unpacking the cinematic, totally untold history of a melody that has become the undisputed soundtrack to footballing immortality.
Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're tracing the wild, cinematic journey of a song that literally stops living legends dead in their tracks. I mean, as the great Zinedine Zidane put it so perfectly, it's magic above all else. And he hit the nail on the head. This is a piece of music so emotionally charged, so intensely powerful, that even the most hardened, elite athletes in the world openly admit to getting absolute goosebumps when it echoes through a stadium. The Champions League anthem isn't just a song you hear before kickoff. It's a deeply ingrained psychological trigger. It represents the absolute pinnacle of club football, a literal sonic boundary between the ordinary and the extraordinary.
Just look at what it means to icons like Lionel Messi. For players of his caliber, those soaring strings instantly signal absolute prestige. As he said, when you hear it, you just know it's a special day. Over the decades, the anthem has transcended its original purpose. It was just a marketing tool. Well, actually, scratch that. It completely transcended being just a marketing tool to become a definitive standard for sporting success itself. If this music is playing over the loudspeakers in your home stadium, it is undeniable, irrefutable proof that your club has reached the very top of the mountain. But how exactly did a corporate marketing brief turn into this massive, untouchable cultural phenomenon? Let's find out.
Chapter 1, A Blueprint for Grandeur. To truly understand the magic of this anthem, we first have to rewind the clock and look at the incredibly dark era of football it was actually born out of.
Back in 1992, to put it bluntly, European football was in a state of absolute crisis. Hooliganism had cast this massive dark shadow over the entire sport. It was dominating the headlines and terrifying everyday families away from attending games. On top of that, stadiums were decaying, television audiences were losing interest fast, and the old knockout format of the European Cup desperately needed a radical overhaul just to survive. Something had to change, and fast. So UEFA partnered up with a visionary marketing agency named Team to engineer a highly commercial, modern vision for the sport. They set out to completely rebrand the tournament to reflect the absolute best of football. They didn't just want a new logo, they wanted to create a standalone sporting universe, an ecosystem that felt like its own nation, complete with its own unified identity, its own iconic starball logo, and most importantly, its own awe-inspiring national anthem.
Now, I want you to think deeply about the concept of brand identity for a moment. Just as you cannot possibly imagine a can of Coca-Cola without its signature vibrant red color, UEFA knew they needed an auditory logo. They needed something so incredibly powerful and distinct that you would recognize the tournament with your eyes completely closed. Drawing on the pioneering theories of a professor named David Huron, who wrote extensively all about musical branding back in 1989, the marketing executives knew that a memorable tune could single-handedly define an entire product. Think of the immediate recognition of the Super Mario theme, or that classic iPhone ringtone you hear everywhere. The Champions League needed that exact level of auditory power to wash away the stains of the 1980s and signal a bright new era.
Chapter 2. Stealing from a King. So, you're tasked with creating this. How exactly do you compose a song that feels like royalty? A piece of music that instantly commands the respect of the entire world? Well, you don't look forward, you look backward. The genesis of this music is just a fascinating leap through history. In November of 1992, UEFA hired Tony Britten. He was a highly respected London-based composer who specialized in television and film scores. But Britten didn't just sit down at a piano and start from scratch. No way. He looked back nearly 300 years to the year 1727, specifically adapting a timeless masterpiece by George Friedrich Handel called Zadok the Priest. And get this, that original piece was composed for the literal coronation of King George II. Britten extracted that rising string phase, that unmistakable, breathtaking aura of royal power and absolute grandeur, and used it as the foundational bedrock for his completely original modern composition. The marketing mandate handed to Britten was crystal clear from day one. UEFA actively rejected the idea of using modern pop songs or stadium rock anthems like Queen's We Are the Champions. They demanded classical music. They wanted something noble, majestic, something that instills absolute awe from the very first note.
But why classical? Well, following the massive global phenomenon of the three tenors performing at the 1990 World Cup in Italy, classical music had become globally recognized as the definitive soundtrack of sporting prestige and high culture. The executives wanted a sound that would instantly elevate a midweek football tournament into a regal, unified occasion. They wanted it to feel huge.
Chapter 3, Anatomy of an Anthem. Let's break down the actual mathematical DNA of this 3-minute masterpiece, which was famously recorded by the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra.
Here is a wild detail. UEFA didn't actually have specific lyrics prepared for the composer, so Britten took it upon himself to beautifully weave together UEFA's 3 official languages, perfectly reflecting the true pan-European character of this massive new competition. He started the build-up in French, establishing the competition's elite status. Then he moved seamlessly into German, honoring the massive historical footballing nations of Central Europe. And finally, he built up the tension and climaxed in English, the undeniable global language of the game, with that booming, unforgettable, stadium-shaking phrase, the main event.
And what is utterly brilliant here is that the lyrics are almost entirely made up of superlatives. Without a pre-written poem or deep narrative to work from, Britten just built scattered, incredibly impactful phrases with the same driving essence, constantly hammering home the elite, unmatched caliber of the 22 men stepping onto the pitch. Phrases like the best, the masters, and the champions are repeated with growing intense harmony. It literally strips away all the complex narratives and turns a simple football match into a mythic, epic clash of titans. The musical structure itself is a brilliant, calculated psychological trick. It's written in the triumphant, uplifting key of D major and set at exactly 88 beats per minute. The tempo is moderate, sure, but fiercely dramatic. But why 88 beats per minute? Because it closely mirrors the resting, elevated heartbeat of an elite athlete standing in the tunnel, totally consumed by pre-match adrenaline. It starts with tense, rising strings that mimic the building anticipation and then explodes into a triumphant brass and horn section. According to musicologists, those shining metallic horns are specifically designed to musically reflect the gleaming metallic silver of the Champions League trophy itself. Talk about attention to detail.
Chapter 4. Magical Matchday Moments. You know, it is one thing to compose a great song in a London studio. It is another thing entirely for that music to mentally alter the world's most elite athletes right before they go to work.
Picture legendary Liverpool captain Steven Gerrard standing in the tunnel in Istanbul before the historic 2005 final. His quote captures the terrifying magic of this song perfectly. When I heard it in the final, my neck froze from tension. When players stand shoulder to shoulder on the pitch, facing that iconic 8-star UEFA flag, the sheer crushing weight of the occasion hits them like a freight train. The anthem strips away their ego and forces them to realize they are seconds away from the most important 90 minutes of their entire professional lives.
In fact, the song itself has literally become a primary recruiting tool for the biggest, richest clubs on earth. Just ask Welsh superstar Gareth Bale. He openly admitted he structured his massive transfer to Real Madrid specifically to ensure he could hear this anthem every single year. Elite players literally map out their entire career trajectories just to guarantee they get to stand under those blinding stadium lights on a Tuesday or Wednesday night and let this exact piece of music wash over them. It is the ultimate, undeniable status symbol in modern sports. Players like Brazilian defender Thiago Silva and Italian maestro Andrea Pirlo echo this exact same sentiment. They've confirmed that the music physically alters their mindset before the referee even blows the whistle. As Pirlo noted, the second those strings swell, it stops being a regular league game and immediately becomes a battle. It is an act of war. The soaring crescendo of the choir prepares them for combat, setting an impossible standard of excellence that forces everyone on the pitch to push their bodies completely beyond their normal human limits. Chapter 5. Expanding the Legacy. But the unbelievable magic of the anthem hasn't just stayed confined to the 90 minutes of gameplay or the minds of the players. Its reach has expanded way beyond what any marketing executive in 1992 could have possibly dreamed. I mean, the anthem has exploded into a bona fide global pop culture phenomenon. We're talking well over 24 million streams on Spotify from fans just wanting to feel that adrenaline rush on their morning commute. Hollywood film scoring legend Hans Zimmer even stepped in to remix it for EA Sports' massive FIFA 19 video game, injecting the prestige of the anthem directly into the living rooms of hundreds of millions of gamers. Fans have totally hijacked it too, like that spine-tingling moment in 2005 when Liverpool supporters belted out "You'll Never Walk Alone" right over the top of the classical choir. Believe it or not, it is even used at weddings and political rallies by people desperately looking to instantly inject a sense of cinematic grandeur into their own lives. Expanding the brand's immense footprint even further, in 2021, UEFA commissioned a brilliant new arrangement to give the rapidly growing Women's Champions League its own distinct, yet incredibly familiar, majestic musical identity. Composer Tony Britten happily returned to his original Handel-inspired structure, but this time he utilized a sweeping, powerful female choir and a slightly lighter, more agile orchestration. It perfectly captured the exact same prestige and deep emotional weight, while firmly celebrating the rising profile and the immense, world-class talent of the modern women's game.
Now, here is a fascinating piece of trivia for you. 45. That is the exact number of seconds the shortened stadium broadcast version plays. While the full, commercially available song is nearly 3 minutes of sweeping classical music, live television broadcast schedules are incredibly strict, calculated down to the exact millisecond. Delivering a highly concentrated 45-second dose of raw emotion focuses the listener entirely on the rising strings and the massive choral climax. It acts as the perfect, bite-sized psychological trigger that keeps millions of global viewers glued to the edge of their seats without ever delaying kickoff.
Chapter 6. An Immortal Football Legacy. Ultimately, the true enduring power of this song comes not just from Tony Britten's brilliant composition or George Friedrich Handel's royal 18th century inspiration. It comes from the sheer volume of history the music has absorbed over the last 3 decades. Think about it. When we hear the anthem today, we aren't just hearing a talented choir in a studio. We are feeling the ghosts and echoes of every impossible comeback, every devastating heartbreak, and every miraculous goal in Champions League history. The music is permanently fused to Manchester United's stunning 1999 comeback. It is welded to Sergio Ramos's unbelievable 93rd-minute header, and it is forever tied to Zidane's physics-defying, magnificent volley. Every single time that orchestra swells, it physically carries the weight of 30 years of footballing miracles directly into our living rooms. What started as a quick, desperate 1992 marketing fix to help save the crumbling reputation of European football, utilizing a 300-year-old British royal coronation tune, of all things, has undeniably, miraculously become the undisputed national anthem of world football. It is a piece of music that completely transforms ordinary, rainy Tuesday nights into massive global spectacles. It has an unmatched ability to turn ordinary footballers into immortal legends and cold, modern concrete stadiums into living, breathing cathedrals of sport. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I leave you with this thought. The next time you are sitting in front of your screen, or if you're incredibly lucky enough to be standing shoulder to shoulder in the stadium terraces and you hear that famous rising chorus begin to swell, what unforgettable, mythic piece of football history are you about to witness? Because whenever this music plays, pure cinematic magic is absolutely guaranteed to follow. Thanks for hanging out and keep learning.